Welcome to the Dana Grant Show, where heart-centered stories, authentic connections, real talk, and real action come together. I'm your host, Dana Grant. I'm a life coach, speaker, and believer in the boundless power within every one of us. Each week, we're diving into raw, transformative conversations that not only spark healing, but growth and unshakable clarity. Because you know what? Your story matters. Your voice deserves to be heard, and your purpose is waiting to be fully lived. You're in the right place. Let's begin. Welcome back to the Dana Grant Show, where I have a really, really unique and special person in the house today. His name is Steph. We're going to have his name like completely written out, but as many of you know, I've just had dental surgery and S's are tripping me up today. And he's got Steph, welcome to the show, number one. Pronunciate your name for me.
Of course, Stefanos Sifandos.
Yeah, we can see where I would just roll with that until next week, but he is so unique. And when I met him in Austin on another show, I was privileged enough to feel his energy in person, which was magnetic. I knew he was dynamic. I knew he was a leader in, interestingly enough, with love, connection, relationship building. He's worked with CEOs all around the world, elite athletes, soldiers, champions. I could go on. I just want to welcome you to the show. It's such an honor to have you in the house today because I think that my audience, I just want everyone to pull up a chair, shut everything off, and listen to Steph.
I
Welcome.
appreciate it. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So my first question out of the gate, I'm going to keep it really simple. And, I wrote down out of all of the questions that are deep dive is why do so many successful people thrive in business but struggle in love? Because I think you have connected some dots there.
Most of the time, for people that have that experience, business, performance, achievement, success is a compensatory strategy. It's in
Mm,
reaction to a lack of love or a lack of something or substance or intimacy in someone's life. And therefore, they compensate by feeling good in another area of life. And so, when the world sees them as successful and accomplished, it
mm,
scratches an itch, so to speak, but the source of the
mm.
itch is a lot deeper. And so it's never really being relieved. So we need more success, we need more achievement, more accomplishment, more external validation. So we can find and create success in certain areas of our lives, but we feel empty in others. And again, I want to repeat this because it's worth repeating. It's a
Yeah.
compensation in relation to a lack or something that has been missing, a void in our lives, right?
I love that you not only said it, but you repeated it. I'm always saying, hey, can you repeat that? Because I think that we hear it and then it needs to be said again to like hold space and resonate
Mm.
in our body and find out where it's landing. When I highlight things that energetically pop off the page to me. And before we started, we talked about a program that you created called Be Your Queen. Let's talk about that prior to diving in on what you do. This lit me up, and I just energetically grabbed a hold of it. Let's talk
Yeah.
about that. Here, you and your wife create this program, Be Your Queen. What does that look like? And what kind of space are you holding?
Yeah, so my wife Christine Hassler and I have been running this program since 2019. It's called Be the Queen, and it is a 3.5 month immersive journey. It's virtual. There's live coaching calls, there's curriculum, there's very real lived experience shared. It takes that woman who's single, largely single. We have some coupled women in there for sure that are in relationship, but largely women that are looking for really healthy love and a very specific kind of relationship. They're tired of settling. They're tired of having broken relationships or repetitive relationships that are really trauma bonded, or they're attracting men that don't align with their highest values, or kinds of relationships where they're not their best selves. It's not bringing that out of them. They're misaligned. They're not having side by side relationships. So we really teach these women and show these women like, hey, what are the blocks and the beliefs and all the things that are happening within your life that are stopping you from getting that? Help them with practices and part of the curriculum's part of that, to start to shift experiential practices start to really shift what they're bringing in and how they see themselves. A lot of it is the first part is really them, their own self-worth. Yes, there's dating techniques and dating practices, and we share a lot
Right.
of our story and our own individual stories. And Christine really shares how, she called in us and how she went into having to be a different version of herself in order to attract a different kind of relationship. And so there's masculine, feminine dynamics, polarity dynamics. Again, we really support these women in being the greatest versions of themselves. And there's an in-person, real life component to this at the end of the 3.5 month program as well. We commence in October.
Mm. Love that. Love all the concepts of that. What dropped in as I was listening and processing is there any one takeaway that you see over and over again that women struggle with?
Oh, I mean, I think for all of us that have unprocessed or unresolved stuff, we generally attract from a wounded place, or we
Mm.
attract from a place of low self-worth, or that we're not enough, and so we compromise our needs. We speak
Mm.
less, we communicate less, we minimize our light, we dim our light, we minimize our needs again, and we maximize the needs of others. We often attract, when I said earlier, from an unresolved place, an example of that could be, if you grew up with an abusive father or an absent father, you can sometimes often attract a very similar kind of energetic, because part of your nervous system wants a redo. You want to move from being a child. We're often moving through the world in disempowered states, and we don't have the voice that we could have as adults, right? We're not seen, we're not heard. Sometimes it's suppressed. The world's very big around us. And so we carry that pattern and that trend into our adult lives. And so the redo scenario is an opportunity for us to feel what was unfelt, but to act in a way that is empowering as opposed to disempowering, to break the shackles of that pattern so we don't keep attracting it over and over again. So like, it's not a lesson that we need to learn, so we don't have to keep attracting it. We notice it. We notice that archetype of man or relationship before we attract it, or as we're attracting it, and we say no, and we have enough power to say no. And that transition from saying yes, 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 it's familiar, I'll take it. Familiarity feels safe, even if it's unhealthy, to saying, no, that's not a healthy relationship for me. I'm not choosing that. That's deeply empowering, right? So there's a lot that comes from that. So, we'll see that. We'll see people just women choosing from low self-worth, just settling,
Right.
not really
Like
being
the good enough,
chosen.
like the good enough version.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But it isn't. It never is, and that's unfair. So, and I don't say that from a place of victimhood on behalf of that woman. I say it from a place of that's disempowering. You're not being fair to yourself, to what you truly deserve and desire, because you're choosing from past versions of yourself. You're choosing from unprocessed, wounded, bound up, constricted, vigilant versions of yourself.
Mm. Oh, I love that.
Mistrusting versions of self.
Yeah. When we met originally, my book that I was there to talk about was The Truth Within the Lie, being
Mm,
married for 25 years
mm,
and
mm,
finding out that, he was sexually assaulting and lost his medical license. I mean, my world blew apart one day. The version I knew, and that was 6 years ago, of all the trauma and chaos that was 25 years of it. And I didn't even recognize it because it's what I knew to be true. But now I look back on it, and I do look back on it with love and compassion because there was a lesson I think I needed to learn. And
mm,
that was the value, self-value, the worth, and the core wound of me that didn't feel safe. And believe it or not, that was the safest person. That person that violated patients and cheated from day one, did all the things. That was the safest person in my life. And I don't believe that I'm alone in that. I don't believe when I first, I thought I had so much shame and I thought I can't ever share this story. No one would, they would say,
mm,
"What's wrong with you? And I do hear when they read my book, how did you not know?
mm,
How about the women that show up and you're like, I mean, do they not want to share their story? Is there shame around? I think shame is so debilitating and can keep us so isolated. Is there shame around them wanting to share their story? Do you see the breakthroughs through the shame and the ownership of like, this is what I chose. I believe I chose all of that to evolve. I think that person was attached to my core wound person, and
Mm.
which I know, and I just simulated and believe it or not, that was my comfort zone.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I do believe that. And it's very courageous of you to say that. And when someone says, how did you not know? It's not necessarily that it's your fault or that one is ignorant or
Yeah.
blind or stupid. Trauma or even just our patterns of protection, our survival strategies, they do quite profound things to our judgment in terms of how they cloud our judgment. And people are really good at being conniving and deceiving. It's not just a you thing or an individual thing like, oh my God, I can't believe I
Yeah.
didn't see that. I'm so stupid, or whatever internal narrative you may have. Now, sure, are we good at burying our heads in the sand? As humans, most of the time, we don't want to face the difficult stuff. We don't want to be uncomfortable, sure. And that's part of our protective patterns as well. Like we don't want to face what's really uncomfortable, what may be possible. There's also another variable of society shuns the intuitive nature of the feminine, and society shuns anything that's not logical and rational, right? And
Right.
so sometimes, and that's connected to shame, that also binds us and stops us from feeling more and being intuitive and trusting our own decision making, trusting our own gut, so to speak, which is really our nervous system speaking to us. And so
Steph,
we
not to
block.
interrupt, but I
Yeah,
love that you just said that because
yeah.
being born and intuitive at the time, doing full 2-year waiting list for readings, always accurate with everyone. This is why they keep coming back.
Mm,
And in that moment, there was like an octopus on my face.
sure.
I was living right with the enemy, kind of
Yeah,
speak. I don't think of him.
sure.
He's a dear friend now, not an enemy, a wounded, and I care about him. I want to say there's no hate, there's no anger, but not at first. I mean,
Sure.
that little bone sticking out is a broken,
Yeah.
because boom, I mean, I wasn't happy, and
Yeah.
I was traumatized. Back to the octopus on the face. It's like we got to pull it. We know, and I think we live, but the
But we
blinders are
deny.
on,
Yep.
and we deny.
Yep.
And I look back on it, and I thought, were there signs? Sure, there were. There
Possibly.
was
Yeah.
lack
Not
of.
possibly. 100% that way. Yeah. Sure.
Oh yeah, there was lack of intimacy. There was all the lack, but that was also normal for me. If we don't
Sure.
have and we don't grow up with a lot of connection and a lot of intimate relationships, we're going to say, well, this is kind of normal, isn't it? And then
Yeah.
with the shame, we don't share that with the world or our friends because we're like, well, what if I'm a freak? What if I'm different? What if
Yeah.
nobody's doing this but me? And do you find that in the group, I mean, I really homed in on Be Your Queen because I know your influence and I also know your reach. It's wide and vast, deep, and you've got a huge community. How many women do you think live with those circumstances, that lack of
So
visibility under
many.
their nose?
So many. And it's deeply sad because we're not living an honest life, honest to what we value and honest to what we deserve and desire. I mean, deserve, the word deserve can appear a little entitled. I can reframe that, but I also don't want to, because as human beings, we
Mm,
deserve to live healthy lives. We deserve to live full, unencumbered lives. It doesn't mean that we go around hurting people because it makes us feel good or makes
right.
us feel better about ourselves. We bully people. We're not about causing harm to others, but we're about living in our own integrity, our own dignity, our own truth. And so many people don't, because their truth in the past has been shunned or it's been repressed or oppressed. An example of that could be having a very critical mother or a critical father saying, "Oh, why are you wearing that dress?" And that happens often enough. Or, "What stupid makeup do you have on?" "Oh, I can't believe you got an A minus instead of an A plus." Or, "Oh, you lost your tennis match." Or what, like, just that stuff stings and it shapes our self-worth, and it that we carry that into our adult lives, right? And so if we're not, and we're also stunted because what we make that mean
Mm,
as children is, oh, me being me in the ways that I'm me is not good enough, so I have to
right.
be different. And we do that enough times, we
Mm.
forget who we truly are, and then we get into a habit and a practice of just contorting ourselves, right? And making sure we're thinking about, what would they want? Well, let me be and let me do what they would want. That's not really productive for anyone, actually, because you're also giving that other person a false sense of who they think you are, which that's not who you
Right.
really want to be. And so no wonder why there's a mismatch in relating. There's no continuity and reciprocity. There's this. There's just
Right.
people bouncing off each other and not understanding why, because we're not living in integrity with ourselves, because we've been
Mm.
told that we're not enough, or we don't matter as we are, or we're not important as we are, or we have to change. And we've bought into that. We have literally bought into that belief. We've made it our own, but it's not ours and it's not true. So the journey is moving from disempowerment to empowerment and untangling all that and coming out of that, moving through that and being more of ourselves in the world.
It kind of that is an opening, but you almost answered all of it. Is how does our nervous system um, play into our relationship patterns? You know,
Yeah, it informs them greatly because it becomes very hyper vigilant and attuned to the environment in which it lives in. And so, if there's any mimicry, if there is any familiarity of a past experience that caused harm or pain, the nervous system will activate. Physiologically, you will be warning bells will go on. You become hyper vigilant, and you'll move into a survival strategy, a relational, emotional, and physical survival strategy. That could mean retracting. That could mean being avoidant, not arguing, not being in conflict, not sharing your point of view. That could mean being really aggressive or even hyper defensive. It could mean stonewalling. It could mean ending the relationship really quickly before it's even begun. Whatever your survival
Cool.
pattern and strategy is that gets you out of that relational danger, you will do it. And your nervous system is informing that. And so we have to learn to regulate our nervous system. We have to learn to live and breathe and execute and function and communicate and connect from a more regulated physiological place, because it's from that place that we can actually elicit more meaningful and real change in our world.
Oh, I love that answer. And that kind of leads me to my next question. How can someone begin to recognize, or how can they begin recognizing when they're repeating unconscious patterns, and not just unconscious emotional patterns that they know to be true, and their belief system is, and as we know, they're not able to receive the feminine, that we can't receive much when our belief system and our emotional connection is in these patterns. How can, not only, I guess, can they recognize it, but what are a couple of things they can do to reset or identify?
Yeah, have space from the pattern. So you may need space from certain kinds of people or certain kinds of relationships. And that's not to be avoidant. That's very deliberate, intentional space. You're having a break from the addiction of relating. Is a
Mm-hmm.
can be a very powerful strategy. Another one is actually prioritizing your physical well-being and prioritizing moving into parasympathetic nervous system response. So that could be just more self-care. Go for more walks, be in nature, jump in the ocean, get massages, slow
Mm-hmm.
down, right? Don't be so intense in your life. Practice less intensity. Have nourishing conversations and nourishing meals. Look after your body with the foods that you're putting into your body. Just be in more self-care. Breathe slowly, breathe more often, meditate, spend more time doing less vigorous activity. And I'm not talking about I mean, exercise can be part of that, but stop rushing around so much in life, right? Stop being so wound up and bound up. Work with a therapist or a coach that can help you with any anxiety that you have or restlessness that you have. Get more and prioritize more quality sleep, less blue screens at nighttime. Like all of the, I can go on and on and on and on. Have
Right.
close friends in your life that you can connect with and communicate with and share yourself with. So shame doesn't, because shame thrives in the dark. You've got to be met though with compassion and non-judgment and in safe relational spaces where people can hold that and not judge you. They can reciprocate what you're sharing and be witnessed and be validated, but not in an echo chamber, right? You don't want to reinforce your victimhood. It's not about that, but it's about
Right.
being met with kindness, right? Like you have a pillow there in the back, be kind. Like
Yeah.
kindness goes a
Yeah.
very, very long way. Relational mirroring goes a very, very long way. And then
Yeah.
you get yourself to a base point where you're learning to regulate your nervous system
Yeah.
autonomously, right? You can pause and you can breathe 3 long, slow breaths. You can, use the sauna, use cold exposure, like whatever it is that helps you regulate your nervous system more often, have more exposure to that. From that base, then you can work deeper with the emotional stuff as well.
Who do you think the ideal woman is in 2026? It's a year of the horse. I think we were off to a rocky start. People thought that it was like giddy up, let's go. I thought it was unpack, unpack, dragging donkeys up the mountain, and it was a lot of release. I think now we're just starting to get into let's get, let's get on the horse and start moving. Who is your ideal woman that would be the woman that would show up right now for you to work with, that you just know? I mean, we know when there's alignment. They may not know, but you
Mm,
know. Who
mm.
would that be?
Yeah, I tend to work with women that have created great success in their lives, in their business lives, in their careers, but they haven't really created quote unquote success or continuity, meaningful continuity in their relationships, in their
Mm.
intimacy. And there's something that holds them back. There's a difficulty in them letting go, and trusting other men, trusting relationships. So many women I work with have had, very unfortunate wounds with men, emotional and or physical, and I should say emotional and or physical and or sexual, where there's been pain, there's been an invasion upon one's sovereignty, and there hasn't been a full recovery from that. But even, beyond the extremity or intensity, it's more like I haven't been able to trust men. I've had to fight so hard for my career, for my voice, for my presence in the world. And I have that and I've created amazing things. And I feel really unhappy and dissatisfied. There's like an empty success syndrome there, and what they're really after is to be, and I'm not a matchmaker per se. I'm not going to magically find a man for you. It's not about that. It's about what's
Right.
happening in here that is bringing to you very similar scenarios over and over and over again. And at some point, we all have to look in the mirror and say, I'm the common denominator. Like, I'm doing something here. And that to me is actually the most empowering thing you can say. Responsibility is empowering. It's not
Mm.
blaming. It's not about blame. Forget about that language. It's not going to work. It's not, that may get you,
Yeah.
like you can motivate yourself so much by blaming and being hard on yourself, but eventually that has a life cycle and an end point, and it's done.
Right.
The responsibility is about empowerment, because when you're empowered, you realize that, oh, I can actually make some changes and deeper transformations in my life. And so they're the kind of women I work with, and that doesn't include women that are also in relationship too, but feel very disconnected from their relationship. Different values, they're moving in different ways,
Right.
and how do they rekindle that, but not in old versions of themselves, but with new versions of themselves?
Where do you think there's the most resistance right now in women making the changes that they need to do to honor their process, their life, in order to live this abundance, which I say love, abundance, intimacy? It's all your birthright. But they've got
Mm,
to find their way back home. Where do you find that? I guess it's a general question, that they're the
yeah.
most resistant.
And the greatest resistance comes from mistrust, mistrust of self, mistrust of the other, a doubt that this relationship, there is a relationship out there for her, that
Mm.
this relationship can actually work.
I hear that a
Um,
lot. I don't know if there's anyone out there for
mm,
me. I think all the good
yeah,
ones are taken.
yeah,
They're all
we're all the good
married.
men. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
we're
all
all
the
the
good
good
men.
men.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
I hear that a lot.
So there's
And do you,
this disbelief, like it's not even possible for me. And there's also a mistrust. Like, I don't trust this can happen for me, and I don't trust I can hold it. I don't trust that it will stay with me. So therefore, why even bother? And if I do, I'm only going to go in, half-hearted. I'm going to go in my guard up, which in and of itself attracts a certain caliber of man and kind of
yeah.
relationship, which is not the one you want.
Absolutely. I don't know. I'm sitting here listening to you and I'm thinking, gosh, I know how powerful your programs and what you've created, but maybe I'm not even going to say subculture, but a spin-off would be a matchmaking service, because you have, I don't know, energetically, I can feel the connections, that you would ask the right questions and the filters and the process where they may not trust themselves fully yet, but you can vet. Maybe it's a vetting process. I don't know. There just feels like something there, and that's just me being who I am.
Yeah,
I don't create things like that if it's not
of
already.
course.
I can see it, and I
Yeah.
see the table, I see what you're doing, and I'm looking back and forth, and I'm listening to you, and I'm like, ooh, I'll share that, because, and then when you do it, you're going to say, you know what? this crazy woman in California said last year, 2 years ago, if I, that I, that, and here we are, and this is the evolution of what we
Yeah.
do.
You're not the
Um,
first person to say that, Dana. Like I throughout the years, often, like for both me and my wife, we have received that, hey, why don't you start a matchmaking service? Start a dating service. Like you're not the first person to say that. It's interesting that you're saying it now as well. Yeah.
well, it's just validation
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
of just kind of solidifying what you do, and then we spit them back out into these women back out into the world with all this information, and it just keeps them connected. And I just see I don't know. I feel joy, excitement. I felt that emotion first. I'm like, what am I feeling? He's talking, and I'm totally in this process, but who knows? Maybe it's something, and y'all heard it here on the Dana Grant Show. It's not the first time he heard it, but I shared it that it may just come to fruition, and it may be your natural evolution, because it's interesting the questions I wrote down, and I'm like, why did I write that down? He doesn't have a dating service. But what do you think about, you've probably already answered it, but I'm going to go back to chemistry and compatibility. What's the difference between that chemistry, compatibility, and emotional safety? Let's reiterate that again for the women out there that get really overwhelmed and confused with all this process.
Sure. I think this is going to be more of a subjective definition per se, as opposed to an
Yeah.
objective definition. But if we start with emotional safety, well, firstly, you feel confident and
Mhm.
safe within yourself to access the uncomfortable parts within you and to feel uncomfortable feelings and to feel comfortable feelings. Like you give yourself permission to feel, right? That's a starting point for
Mhm.
emotional safety. And then there's reciprocity in a relationship where you commit to, both of you have agreements and commitments to holding each other
Mhm.
through certain standards of expression, meaning that if someone's projecting on you or shaming you or blaming you, you're not up for that. That's not emotional safety, right? People can have their moments, you're just not up for that. You have agreements in how you process that and how you work with that. But if your partner comes to you and they're really angry and they just want to express anger, and it's not necessarily directed at you or derogatory, that's a different conversation. But you have the
Right.
emotional safety and the trust, because part of that is trust in the relationship, to actually hold each other through really big feelings, right?
Mhm.
Compatibility for me is communication's part of compatibility. So effective, clear communication, your ability to express your needs and your wants and your values and agreements that you have in the relationship. But really, compatibility centers around values for me. Are you both aligned in the non-negotiables in your life, right? Like, are you both
Mhm.
aligned in the things that really matter to you in your personal life, but also within the constructs of relationship? Do you share similar values? For example, growth. Growth is a value that is shared in my relationship with me and my wife. We both value growth very much. If I didn't and I was unwilling and unable, or she was, that would be
Mhm.
make it very hard for us to be with each other. So
Mhm.
that's a value of compatibility there, right? And then of course there's, you filter down or
Mhm.
filter across, and you say, okay, what are the likes and dislikes that we share, and hobbies and interests? Doesn't mean you have to be engulfed with each other's lives, but do you share
Right.
similar interests? Compatibility, right?
Right.
Enough that you can make decisions together in the present and for the future.
Mhm.
Chemistry is, there are a couple of different ways to look at chemistry, but let's just frame chemistry in the form of physical connection, even sexual connection. And chemistry is just attraction. Is there an attraction? And it's not just physical, I should say. It's mental, it's emotional, it's spiritual.
Yeah.
It's attraction. Are you attracted, magnetized, pulled towards each other? And there needs to be an element of that in any close relationship for the relationship to
Mhm.
be sustainable. And you can have ebbs and flows of that, but you figure out
Right.
strategies in how to come back to each other. And it's not always going to be the same. You're meant to evolve through different phases and stages of relating. Like the
Right.
honeymoon phase is not meant to be the honeymoon phase forever. Right. But that doesn't mean attraction has to diminish completely forever either if the honeymoon phase
Right.
changes. So attraction again is in your values, in the way in your each other's minds, in what you find attractive in each other, in what you find kind, nice, beautiful. I'm just using different words to sort of, are you pulled towards you? Are you interested in their thought process? Are you interested in their philosophy and ideology in life? Are you interested in being physically close with them? Are you interested in emotional and physical and sexual intimacy? Is there an attraction there? It doesn't have to be 24/7, but
Right.
is it there? Is it present? And when it is, it makes the relationship far more fun. Part of attraction or part of chemistry, I would say, is also fun and play. You need to have fun and play in a relationship. Otherwise, not only does it get boring, it gets very difficult to sustain attraction.
Yeah. I love that. I was thinking of a test I used to give people years ago when I started. It was the love language test because
Mm.
I wanted to know, I always say what feels like love, but I want to know what their love language is. And the fact, is it quality time? Is it acts of service? Is it because it gives me a lot of information. What do you think about the love language quiz?
I think it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's insightful, right? It's
Yeah.
useful and it's
Yeah.
insightful. Yeah.
So I have a question that I wrote down and I put a box around. When a box goes around it, it's just like I drop it and it's like my teeth are in it. How do people often mistake emotional intensity for love?
Yeah. So because there's an intensity there, people assume it's an assumption, right? Like the intensity equates to genuine, healthy, clean love, right? Or clean connection.
Right.
Often, not always,
Yeah.
but often it's not. The intensity represents a trauma bond or a wound, meaning that you're attracting
Mm.
from an unhealthy, dysregulated place. And you're doing that for a couple of reasons. One, because it's familiar. And two, because we spoke this earlier, you want to have a redo. You want to have a redo in the relationship so that you
Mm.
can move from disempowered states to empowered states of being. That's a journey of life, right? And so we
Yeah.
mistake it for love, and it has to be that way for us to stay together. Otherwise, if we sort of consciously knew the truth of why we were coming together, we wouldn't come together. So there has to be a strong
Mm.
bond there, right? There has to be a real strong bond. The unfortunate thing is that it's mostly unconscious to us, and so we don't know what to do with it. So we mistake it for love, so we keep staying. Oh, well, I love this person so much. I care for this person so much. Oh, they're in a fuck fight paradigm often. So it's like we have these massive fights, but then we make up and we're so connected. But then we have big, massive fight, and so
Yeah.
they're in this cycle. That's an
Yeah.
indication that it's not really genuine, healthy love or connection, so to speak. It's coming from a wounded place or a trauma bond, or from a place that's trying to be healed, right? It's trying to be made whole. And what the opportunity is for both people is to behave
Right.
differently, right? Is to maybe not treat their partner harshly, but to really actively listen to them and not prioritize their selfishness too much, but
Mm.
rather like really, really hear and listen to that other person. The other person, maybe part of their pattern or part of their wound is uh, not speaking their truth, not voicing their needs. So they get an opportunity to do that. And together you can
Right.
break patterns. And if you have people that you're working with that can see the forest for the trees, they can help you navigate those patterns and help you be different with each other. And wow, like let me tell you, if you can stop relating from a wounded place, it doesn't mean that you're going to stop being attracted to each other. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean that because there's no chaos or far less chaos now, that there's not going to be genuine, say, chemistry or genuine connection. That may be the case, but often not. You reform the way you care for each other and the way that you express connection and intimacy.
What do you think the percentage is of people that are drawn with this trauma
High,
bond?
super high, like
Yeah.
80,
And
80+%.
yeah, I deal with a lot of
Yeah.
it. And what is the recovery rate of both of them
Low.
wanting low? Okay.
Low. Both of them wanting, because to want, you have to have an awareness.
Hmm.
Right? You have to have an awareness of what's happening within you and your patterns. You have to know yourself more intimately. So self-awareness goes a long way, but it's not the be all and end all. It's not the end point. And then you're going to want to do it. So you got to be aware of it. You got to want it, but then you got to do it. You got to have the ability and the capability, and that requires resilience, persistence. That requires a lot. That requires hard work, effort. That requires prioritizing yourself. That requires prioritizing your partner. That requires going out
Yeah.
on a limb. It's work. Like nothing. You've built your business. You've built a successful business. Did it happen overnight?
No.
No. Did it require hard work?
Yes.
Anything worth pursuing requires work and effort. It's just the fact of our humanity. Like that's it. Like, nothing is exempt from that.
Yeah. And consistency. Wash, rinse, repeat. Wash, rinse. A lot of consistency. Oh, I love this conversation. I think this conversation is going to help so many people and women, men that are listening that can maybe understand this process a little bit better, and women that are listening and identifying and knowing that, I might need some help. I always say the first step is to identifying, and then the second step is to take inspired action. If
Yeah.
you know there's a problem and it's like, Houston, there's a problem, we know usually when there is. And or are we going to accept that this is the way life is and I'm going to continue the trauma bond because the alternative is it's not going to work. I'm going to have to divorce and leave, and I'm not willing to make the change. And I'm terrified of that. Do you see that a lot?
Oh, massively. The,
Yeah.
the, the fear just contracts and says, basically, it's better the devil we know. Better the
Yeah.
devil we know than moving into the unknown. And and this is really, really important here, until the pain of staying together outweighs the pain of the unknown after being
Mm,
in your truth, you never change.
mm. Stuff. This is powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, I know I've kept you a long time. I want to know what feels like love in your life right now. What feels like love in your life right now? I always ask that question.
Yeah, it's a beautiful
Um,
question. I
yeah.
mean, my family, my health, my purpose, the people that I spend time with, my business partners who are my friends, the people in my life feel like love. The ocean feels like
Mm.
love. Getting
Well,
to do amazing things in the world feels like love. Like all of it feels like love. Like yeah, exercise. I think I said this. My health though, like it just yeah, my baby girl. I mean,
mm.
yeah, my
How
wife,
old is
like all of
she?
it. She's
How-
4.5.
Oh, I love that. I know you have a deep sense of boundaries and discernment. I felt your discernment when I sat next to you. You have a silent authority with a lot of power, and it was tapping in energetically next to you. I knew that I was like, I have to have him on the show. And I knew that you probably don't say yes to everyone because I could feel that too. So thrilled to have you here.
Mm.
Is there anything that I haven't asked? I can look down at a million questions that I wrote down. Is there anything intuitively that I haven't tapped into or asked that you think people need to know, that my audience needs to know?
Yeah, there's something deeply freeing when we feel stuff that we haven't allowed ourselves to feel for decades. And the more we avoid it, the more of what we don't want we get.
Right.
And my invitation to people is, as uncomfortable as this is and confronting as it can be, two things: be in your dignity and your truth and feel your feelings, like allow yourself to feel anger or to feel shame. It doesn't mean you let it cycle and you just that becomes your MO. It means stop avoiding the thing that is persisting within you that wants to be free. Because
Mm.
there's a profound freedom through that process. And then the other last thing I'd say is, there's many different ways to work with me or be in my world, but I just released a book in February with Hay House, and it speaks to so much of what we touched on here and in greater depth. There's a lot of bonuses that come with it right now, especially with the audio, because I actually recorded the audio about 10 or 11 months after I finished writing the book. So there was so much more growth that I had in that period of time.
Yeah.
But you can get the book tuned in and turned on book.com from any of your favorite retailers. It's all there. It's just an easy access point into my world, and it's very cost effective.
Mm.
Yeah, and I invite you into the audio. If you can tolerate my voice, I did record it,
Oh, you have
or
an
the book.
incredible voice. Well, my book just it's so crazy because my book came out 11 months ago. The audio just came out,
Oh, great.
but I didn't do my voice. Everyone says,
Easy
"Do
done.
your voice, do you?" But I just kept struggling to get it done, and I
Fair.
finally, and then it was just released. I'm like, that's a little Irish, a little English, but you know what? Better done
Yes,
than
but
than
not.
perfect. As much as I would have loved it,
Yes.
you said some things that are aligned. I was born on Louise Hay, her birthday.
Oh, nice.
So that you said Hay House, and that's huge for me because that was the first person that said they were interested in my book, and
Mm.
I pulled a card today, and it was an intention card prior to you showing up, and I'm like, freedom. And then you
Love
just
it.
said that too. It's like signs, 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 signs.
Yeah. Yeah.
I believe that there's signs all around us signaling,
Yeah.
and our body is the last place that shows up
Mm.
to alert us, but we get the information. And wow, I love having you here. I'd love to have you and your wife back. Say yes,
Yeah.
let's do it in
Yeah,
person.
of course. Yeah.
Um, okay, so you've got your book. They can get your book out there. You've got programs you've got coming up in July, not July, October. I should know
Yeah.
that. Being a Libra, my birthday is in October. Be Your Queen. What a beautiful month to be your queen. You've got
Mm.
that. How can people find you? Where's your hub? Where do you hang out? Do you answer your messages?
Yeah.
Let's give the people like where you could they can
Of
tap in.
course. Of course, yeah. At Stefanos Sifandos on Instagram. I mean, I'm all over socials. Whatever channel I'm pretty much on. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Facebook. I'm on YouTube.
Right.
I spend probably more time on Instagram. I absolutely respond to messages personally. But you can find me on Instagram if you want to work with me directly and you want to apply for coaching.
Mm.
Coachwithsteph.com. Yeah, super straightforward. Really easy to get access to me.
Oh, thank you, Steph. I love that. I love that it's not like a difficult process. It's an easy
Mm-mm.
process. And you guys are going to have to line up. I might just reach out to Steph and and do some more alignment because I
Mm,
questioned, I put myself through your
mm,
process today and things came up and I'm like, ooh.
mm,
And I think we're always on the cuff and we should always continue. I always
mm.
say I'm a student of the universe forever. I don't care what
Me
age.
too.
I always want to
Yeah,
learn and grow
yeah,
and keep evolving. And I
yeah.
love this conversation. And I think so many people are going to relate. I will have everyone, I'm going to have all the links, all his book, everything's going to be in the newsletter. It's going to be on the podcast release. I can't wait to get this out there. And you're going to want to download this. You're going to want to hear it on repeat um, because you like dropped gold over and over again. I couldn't even write it fast enough. It was like nuggets everywhere. And I think the world needs this now more than ever. The kindness, the love, the connection, the evolution, rebuilding relationships that are and the healing and releasing the shame and working through the trauma, not just trigger words of all the things going on.
Mm,
Like I think my team just said, I reviewed something this morning and they said manifest, and they said hate man. I said I don't hate anything, but let's just say I'm burned out on the word manifest. There's a better evolution for that. It's
mm,
just those trigger words that don't represent. I think everything you said today represents where if women want to evolve and have more, I believe if they have more love in their life, if they have more
mm,
kindness, more connection, they can make a lot more money because money's just source that follows the vibration and everything is energy. And everything you said today, I thought, wow, it just keeps
mm,
raising the vibration of where women want to evolve. And I think it's a starting point, the healing, the connection, the love.
mm.
Thank
Yeah,
you, Steph. Thank you
yeah,
for being here.
yeah. Thank you. Bless you. Appreciate you.
Oh, I appreciate you and what a great conversation. Okay, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for joining the Dana Grant Show. Make sure to download, follow. We're going to give you all the links to follow. I know you're going to want to follow him. I know. If you're not on YouTube and not looking at how gorgeous he is too, you're going to want to go over to YouTube and you're going to want to watch that too. He's a very handsome man. His wife is probably saying, "Yes, I know." And we're just blessed to have him here. All right, everyone. Take care. Until next time. Thank you.